Do you remember the WWE days when there were no live audiences, just the cold sound of collisions and wrestlers battling in an eerie silence? That was the pandemic era, a time when WWE had to get creative and try out some of the strangest ideas just to keep viewers glued to their screens. Believe me, some of those moments were so bizarre you probably wouldn't even want to revisit them. But today, Wrestling Sphere is taking you back to that odd chapter, highlighting 10 WWE moments you might have completely forgotten. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss the next video. Number 10. Day 316, when Stone Cold talked to nobody. When WWE had to relocate all operations to the Performance Center due to the pandemic, fans immediately knew they were about to witness a strange chapter in the company's history. Nothing illustrated this better than the March 16, 2020 episode of Raw. Coincidentally, Day 316. The perfect occasion for Stone Cold Steve Austin's comeback. But instead of the usual roaring cheers, the Texas Rattlesnake stepped into a silent arena that felt more like a graveyard. No pyrotechnics, no flying beer cans, just cold lights and empty seats. Austin maintained his trademark cocky swagger, yet this time there was no one to react. He tried to spark some energy with a few jokes and brief exchanges with Becky Lynch and commentator Byron Saxton. But rather than excitement, awkwardness filled the air. The segment's climax came when Austin delivered a stunner to Saxton, a move fans once erupted over. This time, all that echoed was the thud of a body hitting the mat in the empty space. In a different context, it might have been a funny moment. Here, it became a symbol of the isolation and confusion WWE and its wrestlers faced at the pandemic's start. No one was at fault, but everything felt off. That's why Stone Cold's return that year got buried in memories, not because it lacked impact but because it was just too bizarre to hold on to. Number 9. The Karaoke Contest, when SmackDown turned into a neighborhood talent show. During lockdown, WWE had to try every kind of entertainment to fill airtime. Then, in July 2020, SmackDown gave fans an experience no one expected. A karaoke contest right in the ring. Yes, you read that right. In the middle of a wrestling show, the female superstars were invited to sing. The host? JUSO, a wrestler, not a TV presenter. The contestants? Lacey Evans, Dana Brooke, Tamina, and Naomi. The song list? Legendary tracks tied to classic stars like Jeff Jarrett, Honky Tonk Man, and Dusty Rhodes. This mix was like pouring fish sauce into milk. Nobody really understood why it happened. From the moment Naomi grabbed the mic, viewers knew they were in for an emotional roller coaster with no breaks. Every performance made the atmosphere more uncomfortable, filled with emotionless singing, poor quality, and a complete lack of purpose. There were no boos since there was no live audience, but if there had been, the arena surely would have echoed with groans. When the segment ended in a chaotic mess that had nothing to do with karaoke, everyone realized this wasn't entertainment, it was a desperate attempt to fill time. Like many forgettable pandemic moments, this scene quickly faded into obscurity, where it honestly belonged from the start. Number 8. When the janitor turned into a demon, Randy Orton's dark assassination. The pandemic transformed Raw into a surreal stage, and Randy Orton took center stage in this nightmare. No longer just the familiar legend killer, Orton became a character straight out of a horror movie. In the summer of 2020, he methodically hunted down some of wrestling's biggest names, from Big Show and Christian to Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels, each falling victim to the RKO and a steel chair. The climax of this ruthless spree came on the September 28 Raw episode. Orton didn't make a flashy entrance with booming music or bright lights. Instead, he disguised himself as a janitor, quietly pushing a mop bucket down the hallway as if no one was paying attention. Behind this unassuming facade was a carefully planned mission: to infiltrate the Legends Lounge where the wrestling legends were relaxing and playing cards, completely unsuspecting. Suddenly the lights went out, plunging everything into darkness. Orton, now wearing night vision goggles, made his move. No screams, no camera capturing the action, only the cold glint of metal as the steel chair came crashing down. When the lights flickered back on, the legends lay sprawled across the floor. Had this moment happened in front of a roaring crowd, it might have gone down as a legendary scene. But during the no-audience era, it became just another odd segment, aired once and quickly forgotten, as if it never took place. Number 7. When ninjas, sharks, and the 24/7 title broke all logic. If the pandemic era proved one thing about WWE, it's that nothing was too bizarre to air. At Backlash 2020, WWE officially plunged into the world of ninjas. Yes, actual ninjas, not just a metaphor. Akira Tozawa made a surprise return as a ninja leader, with no explanation whatsoever. Flanking him was a squad of black-clad warriors, led by a giant ninja, played by Amos before his official debut. This group quickly squared off against R-Truth, who was clutching the 24/7 championship like a national treasure. The peak of this chaotic storyline came on the September 21st Raw. Truth was relaxing at the beach when Tozawa suddenly emerged from the water like a character straight out of a low-budget action flick. At that exact moment, Truth's imaginary friend Little Jimmy yelled a warning about a shark. Panicked, Truth bolted, leaving the championship belt behind in the sand. Tozawa, equally spooked, swam away. Minutes later, Truth returned wearing scuba gear, retrieved the title, and held up a torn piece of fabric as proof of the pointless battle. No one got eaten by sharks, but both Tozawa's credibility and the 24/7 title's legitimacy were completely swallowed whole. This wasn't just comedy, it was WWE seemingly throwing logic out the window. And because of that, this moment faded into oblivion, both literally and figuratively. Number 6. The haunted swing and screams in the mirror, when WWE entered the doll world. If the pandemic was WWE's playground for experimenting with wild ideas, then Alexa's playground stands out as the boldest and strangest of all. In this segment, Alexa Bliss wasn't the fierce warrior fans knew. She transformed into a creepy, unsettling character. A quirky little girl with dark makeup, unpredictable mood swings, and a best friend who just happened to be a doll named Lily. The entire Alexa's playground was staged like an abandoned playground where reality and illusion blurred together. It felt like a cross between a school horror flick and a weekly WWE show. One of the most unforgettable, or rather instantly forgettable, moments came on June 7, 2021, when Shayna Baszler stepped into this bizarre world. Known for her cold, ruthless fighting style, Shayna found herself caught in a supernatural script. After clashing with Alexa, she was suddenly surrounded by fireworks exploding at Bliss's command, triggered only by a glance. The chaos didn't stop there. Shayna bolted and locked herself in a room, desperate to escape, a doll. Then she screamed in terror as she saw Lily appear in the mirror. That scene could have been lifted straight from a low-budget 80s horror movie, just missing the dramatic soundtrack. While the concept was daring, the result left many fans rolling their eyes. A wrestler once built up as a relentless force was reduced to a side character in a messy horror comedy farce. It's no surprise that most viewers chose to erase this segment from their memories. Number 5. When the fake legend returned and everyone lost. In the WWE universe, some characters exist solely for laughs, and Gilberg is a prime example. Originally a parody of WCW's Super Warrior, Gilberg, played by Dwayne Gill, became a comedic icon during the Attitude Era. With his scrawny frame, smoke-blowing pyrotechnics, and bewildered expression, Gilberg made millions of fans either laugh or switch the channel. Years later, when the pandemic forced WWE to get creative behind closed doors, Gilberg was surprisingly brought back. During a January 2021 Raw episode, The Miz and John Morrison hosted a special edition of The Dirt Sheet. They promised a devastating Goldberg appearance, but instead Gilberg walked out to grand music, balding, harmless-looking, and stumbling awkwardly. The parody didn't stop there. The role of Drew McIntyre went to a heavier-set man wearing a plaid skirt, lacking any of the champion's intensity. What was meant to be satire quickly became a stale joke, dragging on in the eerie silence of an empty arena. Originally, the idea was to hype Miz's promise to defeat two legends at the Royal Rumble using his Money in the Bank contract. But the outcome was a bland, overlong skit that lost all meaning by the end. Rather than delivering laughs, it left a feeling of disappointment, like an awkward joke that went on way too long and no one really wanted to remember. Number 4. When the band broke up and played one last time together. In 2020, the world hit pause and even WWE, a company that never stops, had to face its toughest challenge, layoffs. Among the long list of names cut in April, Heath Slater stood out as a somber note. Known for his time in entertaining factions like Nexus, 3 Megabytes, and the I Got Kids crew, Slater was often cast in supporting roles but won fans over with his genuine heart and dedication. Just when it seemed his story had quietly ended, WWE surprised everyone 3 months later with a deeply emotional moment. On the July 6, 2020 episode of Raw, Slater made an unexpected appearance wearing a free agent shirt, his eyes burning with a mix of anger and heartbreak as he confronted his former ally, Drew McIntyre. Slater called out Drew for never reaching out, for not helping him after the layoff. The tension boiled over as he slapped Drew and demanded a match. But the fury lasted only 30 seconds. A swift, decisive Claymore kick ended it all. Yet the story wasn't over. Right after, Dolph Ziggler charged in to attack Slater. Without hesitation, Drew turned on Ziggler, driving him away and helping his old friend to his feet. Their embrace wasn't just forgiveness, it was a gentle goodbye, the final encore from a band that had once been broken but played one last time to close an unfinished chapter. Number 3, Brendan Vink, a name that passed like a breeze. Amid the chaotic tides of WWE's pandemic era, where anything could happen, one name flickered so briefly that many barely caught it: Brendan Vink. A towering Australian giant, called up from NXT just as the world shut down due to COVID-19. What seemed like a golden opportunity quickly turned into a short, disappointing journey. On March 23, 2020, Vink debuted on Raw, teaming with fellow Aussie Shane Thorne. But facing the Street Profits proved too tough, they lost. The following week brought another defeat against Humberto Carrillo. Round 3? No better, falling to Cedric Alexander and Ricochet. Many expected Vink to fade into obscurity, but then a seemingly golden chance appeared when he and Thorne were placed under MVP's guidance, the man spearheading a new era. And a miracle happened. They scored a win, a rematch victory over Alexander and Ricochet. But that spark was fleeting. Less than 2 weeks later, they tasted defeat again, and Brendan Vink vanished from Raw without fanfare, without a word of farewell. Though rumors buzzed that he might be WWE's next big project, it remained just that, rumor. Vink returned to NXT rebranded as Duke Hudson, and began rebuilding from scratch. Yet his Raw stint remains a strange footnote, like a shooting star, flashing briefly before vanishing into the darkness of the audience-free era. Number 2. Joseph Parks, from TNA legend to the quirky statistician on SmackDown. Amid the eerie silence of WWE's audience-free pandemic era, one figure appeared that made even the most seasoned fans do a double take: Joseph Parks. For hardcore TNA followers, the name isn't unfamiliar. Known as Abyss, Chris Parks was once a symbol of brutal violence and unrelenting fury in some of the bloodiest matches ever seen. But when he stepped onto WWE's stage in August 2020, everything changed dramatically. Gone were the mask, the thumbtacks, and barbed wire. Joseph Parks now wore a sharp suit, round glasses, and sported a gentle smile, looking more like an office professional than a hardcore legend. He was introduced as AJ Styles' new associate, not a manager or trainer, but the operator of a unique stats system AJ had created, the Phenomenal Intercontinental Statistics System, abbreviated as PISS. Yes, you read that right. That acronym didn't just raise eyebrows from commentator Michael Cole. It left fans wondering if it was a deliberate joke or a cringeworthy gimmick. Parks did nothing more than stand beside AJ, applauding whenever a stat popped up, basically acting like a walking PowerPoint slide. Less than a week later, Parks reappeared, but this time only to take the heat from a frustrated AJ Styles after a loss to Jeff Hardy. And then, just like that, Joseph Parks vanished from WWE screens, leaving behind a swirl of questions. Why on earth did WWE choose to reintroduce a hardcore icon in such an odd and underwhelming way? Number 1. When Vince McMahon faced The Fiend, a bizarre moment forgotten by time. During the pandemic's chaotic grip, WWE was no stranger to the madness. Without roaring crowds or explosive reactions, the pro wrestling world fell into a chilling silence. Against this surreal backdrop, Vince McMahon, the most powerful figure in WWE, unexpectedly appeared on camera multiple times as if to assert, "I'm still steering this ship." He'd already shocked audiences by guiding Rob Gronkowski's leap off the WrestleMania stage, and casually watched AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan brawl inside his own office. But the most puzzling moment came during a SmackDown episode leading up to SummerSlam 2020. Vince was passionately unveiling the ThunderDome concept, the company's digital hope amid the pandemic, when the lights dimmed, and the last person anyone wanted to see stepped forward, The Fiend. Bray Wyatt, with his demonic visage, slowly approached Vince in a cold, tense frame that felt like a stretched wire. Everyone braced for a shocking moment. But before anything could unfold, Braun Strowman, then The Fiend's rival, intervened, forcing Vince to quickly retreat. Throughout WWE's storied history, Vince McMahon and The Fiend have rarely shared the same shot. Though fleeting, that moment carried an eerie mix of suspense and confusion, a strange snapshot that many overlooked amid the pandemic's chaos. Throughout the pandemic era, WWE wasn't just about putting on matches, They told stories that were downright bizarre, wildly surreal, and at times surprisingly entertaining. From surprise, out-of-nowhere debuts to moments that left fans scratching their heads, WWE turned adversity into a playground for imagination, though not every storyline hit the mark. What you just watched aren't simply forgotten segments. They stand as proof of a challenging chapter WWE navigated with boldness, creativity, and yes, a touch of madness. If you caught these moments or recall any even weirder details, drop a comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wrestling Sphere, because our journey through the WWE universe is far from over.